What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down some routes and some plays from former five-star wide receiver and Texas A&M wide receiver Evan Stewart, who has one of the highest valuations in terms of NIL deals, NIL worth in today's day and age of college football. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, we are going to be traveling out to 13 more states across the country for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. So if you guys are local to Phoenix, Arizona, Charlotte, Dallas, the DMV, St. Louis, Honolulu, Boston, Cleveland, Austin, Seattle, Newark, Denver, or Los Angeles, California, and would like to get some work in with myself and my staff of coaches, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out to one of our 2-day camps, 8 hours of training total. So very first link below if you want some more information on that. Let's get started with this video. So former five-star wide receiver Evan Stewart, one of the most highly recruited guys coming out of high school, great college wide receiver, played for Texas A&M this year. He is one of the most explosive players in his class and probably in college football in general. So we're going to talk about what makes him such a special player and how you guys can mimic your route running and your plays after him and what can make you stand out. So this is a clip here from the Under Armour All-American game or some type of combine, but he is going to be running a curl route. Now this is, I know, it's t-shirt and shorts. There's cones out on the field. It's not a live game scenario, but this is something that all wide receivers should strive for. So let's play this thing full speed. So he's running up into this route and he's able to just cut on a dime, drop his hips and get out of a break. Now, I think the novice person kind of watching this who's maybe not familiar with the wide receiver position, not familiar with football, doesn't necessarily understand how hard this is to do. So on every single route, number one thing that you have to sell is you have to be able to sell a fade. Right? You have to be able to make a DB think whether he's right next to you or whether he's off in zone coverage that you are going to be running deep. Because that will either get the guy in man coverage to flip his hips and run or the DB who's off to backpedal. So how we can do that is by running hard, number one. You got to make sure that we are running full speed. Because if you're running half speed and you start to slow down midway through your route to prepare for the break, that's what we call an indicator to the DB that we are going to be running a route. So I need to make sure that my speed is on point. Number two, I need to make sure that I have a long stride. What so many wide receivers do right before the break point is their stride starts to shorten. They start to take choppy steps because, again, they are preparing for the break. They come off here, they have this nice long stride, but you see how Stewart doesn't change his stride. He's able to break right in stride while running full speed. That is incredibly challenging, but that is what leads to a ton of separation on your routes, and that's what makes him an explosive wide receiver. Now, there's one last thing that causes guys to be able to sell fade and sell vertical, and that is keeping a good pad level position, aka your body language. So running up into this break, I don't want to be that guy that I'm running full speed, but right before the cut, we raise my chest up and I start to lean back because that is also an indicator. A DB in man, maybe a DB in off man, they are going to be watching your hips. And if they see your hips raise up, that is when they are going to be expecting a break. So you have to be a salesman of that fade. Now, all of that stuff's great. All of that stuff sounds great, but it's very, very difficult to change direction and be able to get out of a break with little to no wasted motion while doing all those things. But that's what Stewart is able to demonstrate right here. Right up to that cone, right at that break point. Because what a lot of wide receivers will do is they will break 3 yards before they have to. They start to slow down and they have this slow sink of their hips. That's not how you change direction in a real game scenario. Because the longer you take at the break, the slower your hips are, the more time a DB has to react. We have to be able to cut on a dime. So you see, when he gets to his break point, he's got that violent drop of his hips. You see so many NFL wide receivers get to this point. Stephon Diggs, Jerry Jeudy, some of the most explosive guys in the game. They all have that violent hip drop. So that is why you do that, because that's how you decelerate while running full speed. Imagine if he had this kind of speed and was selling vertical, but he did that typical like beat the drum movement. A lot of old school wide receiver coaches teach that, where you chop your feet and you beat the drum with your hands. You have your hands move as fast as you can, just at the top of the break. That is going to cause a huge drift upfield, which would cause you to drift into a defender. And if a defender was right on your hip, he would be able to recover and make this play. Especially the defenders that are playing at that SEC level, that Power 5 level, which are the guys that he matches up against on Saturdays. You have to have other attributes and bring those to the table if you want to get separation against those types of DBs. And that violent hip drop is how we can do that. So all the way to the break point, the violent hip drop slows him down. You want to think of it like you're sitting in a chair with your butt and your chin is dropping straight to your knee. Like there's a string attached to your chin and you are pulling that string straight down. Because that is what will lower that body language and change levels for you so you can decelerate. So when we decelerate like this, but it also, because I'm combining speed with that violent drop, that creates explosion. And that explosion right there is what will shoot you out of the break and accelerate you to the ball so you could go make that play and beat the DB, if there was a DB in this scenario, to the ball. It's all about being able to sell. It's all about being able to stop on a dime, but while we're stopping on a dime, create energy to shoot you back to the ball. It's like running a 40-yard dash, fellas. That first 10 yards is your drive phase. That break point is your drive phase on the route so you can accelerate out of your breaks. This is what those top-tier coaches are looking for in wide receivers. That's why I bring this up, because I'm assuming a lot of you have dreams and aspirations of playing football at the next level, right? This is what those college coaches are looking for. They're looking for guys who are fast, obviously, but they're also looking for, in today's day and age, offenses that are air raid offenses, where everything's about speed, everything's about quickness. You're getting a lot of one-on-one matchups. They look for these kind of things: smoothness in and out of breaks, and how well can you self-fade. That is what they are looking for. Let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great job by Stewart, dropping on a dime, showcasing those violent hips, and being able to get in and out of a break. Now, we're going to be looking at some practice film now, and we're going to get into some game film clips as well. But this is going to be some practice film from Evan Stewart, and this is going to be one of those things where the details matter. So many times wide receiver coaches, they think, playing the wide receiver position is just, running 12 yards without falling down. We'll put a cone or two out there. You just get in and out of the cone. But there are very, very detailed elements to wide receivers, to the wide receiver position, and how you can run routes. And that's what I want to showcase on this break. So this is a drill where he's going up against another wide receiver. They're both running up and making a 45-degree curl break, and they are racing back to the ball. The coach is going to be throwing the ball in the middle, and it's whatever wide receiver gets there first. So let's pay attention to his steps at the break point. So obviously he does a great job of selling the route. Obviously he does a great job of running fast, running in full stride, everything that we talked about in the last example. But now a lot of guys can do that. But at the break point, because they have so much speed, they don't know how to control this speed and make those sharp cuts, looking for that smoothness in and out of breaks. I saw this old interview with Nick Saban in Alabama, because Alabama, wide receiver you got Julio Jones, you got Amari Cooper, you got Jerry Jeudy, you got all these great route running type guys. I'm sure I'm missing a bunch more. Devontae Smith, all those guys. And they asked him, what do you guys look for in wide receivers? He said smoothness in and out of cuts. Do they have wasted motion at the top of the break? So one thing that you could do on your breaks, especially a 45, this is like a curl, this is like a comeback. Obviously, you got to self-fade. Obviously, we got to sit in the chair and bring my chin to my knee, and it's got to happen violently. But a lot of guys will do that, and then at this break point, they take 8 different steps. They'll snap down, but they don't know how to control their speed. And this is a very, very minor detail of running routes, but this separates a lot of elite route runners from a lot of average route runners. And that is the second step and the third step after their hip drop. So you see when Stewart snaps down, they call this first step the trigger step. That is what brings the chin to the knee. That is what will get you low. Now, after you drop down, after you self-fade, it's all about getting out of the break with no wasted motion. So watch what his second step does. You see how his second step pivots, and it's a hard step. His entire foot is into the ground because that is what is turning his hips out of this break as fast as possible. It's a snap, then he pivots, and now watch what his third step does. It hooks. And that third step, you see how his whole foot is in the ground. He's not on his tippy toes. He's not beating the drum with his hands. That pivot and that hook step drives him out of this break so he could accelerate back to the ball and beat this other wide receiver to the ball. In a real game scenario, beat the DB to a ball. Those minor details, fellas, when you combine that with having good speed into the break, selling fade, dropping on a dime, wasted motion at the top of the break, not even so much wasted steps, just wasted time at the top of the break is what will allow elite level DBs to be able to recover on our routes. And we cannot have that happen. It's all about eliminating wasted time. So remember, we got to self-fade. We got to have that explosive trigger step. We're violent with my hips sitting in a chair, violent with my chin to my knee, but then I pivot and I hook while staying low to shoot me back to the ball to give me acceleration because I drop violently and my steps are violent. And number 2, get my hips out of the break, little to no wasted time. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Stewart getting in and out of this break and then coming back to that ball. So next clip I want to look at here is a one-on-one clip from Stewart before he entered college. And this is one of those things where great route runners are very, very good in uncomfortable situations. So he is going to be running a sluggo route. Now, we get a lot of questions on our channel about different routes that you run versus different types of looks, right? Like, okay, I got to run like a post route and the DB's 8 yards off, right where I'm supposed to break, and he's inside leverage. That means he's lined up to the inside of me. So if you got this look, inside shade press, and you got to run a sluggo, that's kind of an awkward look, right? That's kind of tough because you got to make sure that you sell a slant and then we're breaking back up on a go. So let's watch what he does here. DB's inside shade. He attacks him inside, takes his normal 3 steps on the slant, and then sells the slant and is able to win and finish on this play. Again, we have to be very, very good in uncomfortable situations as a wide receiver. So you just got to break it down exactly like how you would break down a normal route. So if you had to run a slant route versus inside shade press, what would you do? You would do something called a diamond release. And a diamond release is where you would maybe give a jab to the inside like he does. You don't necessarily have to take this many steps, but you would take like maybe 3 to 5, 1, 2, 3 steps to the outside shoulder of the DB. We were trying to make him think fade. A lot of the things that wide receivers do, just like those first 2 examples we showed, is about making a DB think fade. So he takes those 3 hard outside steps. He's running hard, running in full stride, hips and shoulders are committed, and he slips back underneath the DB because that is how you would run a slant. And again, he opens up his hips. He thinks he's placing this thing well, and this is where the sluggo element comes into play. 1, 2, 3. See how his eyes are looking to the inside? He's got good speed selling the slant, gets the DB's eyes to the inside, hips and shoulders are committed. All of those little details matter. And again, you have to be very good in uncomfortable situations if you want to be an elite level wide receiver. You got to know how to run routes versus every single type of look. And that's what gets the DB to crash. We keep my head down. I could put the accelerators on, put the burners on, and be able to widen the distance from this DB. Now, ball was underthrown, and this just goes to show what kind of athlete he is. He's still able to come back and make a play and high point this catch. Fellas, all of those things, if you're a guy who's trying to play football at the next level, those are all the things that you need to showcase. So many times guys worry about the wrong things, you know? Oh, how many touchdowns do I have? What are my stats? Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. You could be a wide receiver and have 50 touchdowns on the year, but all 50 of them are like wide open slants on the 10-yard line. So you got 50 touchdowns, great, good for you. But if I'm trying to recruit a guy and you had 50 touchdowns, and then I'm looking to a guy who's got maybe 20 touchdowns, but 18 of them are explosive plays where he took a slant, broke a tackle, took it 60 yards, ran a great route, uncomfortable situation, high point catch, I'm going to go with that guy because that guy's an explosive playmaker. We want to make explosive plays on the field, and that comes from knowing how to run your routes, knowing the details of route running like in those first 2 examples that we talked about, and being able to make these types of catches at the top. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. You got to make big plays if you want to stand out, fellas. And if you're not a playmaker, you will not be able to play college football at the next level. This is a great example of that from Stewart, and a great job high pointing that catch to go up and win. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comments section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys as usual. And again, fellas, if you would like to train with us in 13 more states this offseason we will be coming out to, check out that very first link in the description below where you can get all the information on how you can sign up, what we will be covering for the 2 days of training that we will be offering. So again, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you next time.